This is Caps PA announcer Wes Johnson, and you're listening to Board the Pod!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of What the Puck. It is a Washington Capitals podcast, and that means it's a podcast about your 2018 Stanley Cup champions. Thank you all for listening to us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, especially Overcast, and we are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. What is going on, everybody? How's it going? It is late September, which means the Capitals all are back in D.C. for training camp, and the season is right around the corner. Joining me, as always, to talk all about it, my buddy Coach Dan. What's going on, man?
Well, I am doing all right. I'm glad to be back. How you been? How was your summer? Even though we did have a show in the middle of the summer, didn't we?
We did. It was the free
Early
agency
July.
where there wasn't not a lot of frenzy going on with the free agency. We recorded
There was a lack
on the
of
4th of July.
There was a lack of frenzy. There was What was that movie where like for a day you got to go around and like commit any crimes?
The Purge?
Yeah, it was like the opposite of that. The Caps are just like they just stayed at home. They're like, you guys go have fun.
Yeah.
The Purge was a 50-year-old man on a Saturday night while his teenagers are going out. He was hanging out, watching some TV, make a trade.
Yeah. Nothing really happened, but we actually did that show on the 4th of July, if you remember. We celebrated America's birthday by talking about a Canadian sport.
I forgot about that, even though I literally just looked at the date to find out when we recorded because I'm stupid.
Yeah, but the Caps, they've already got a game underneath their belt, and luckily a Caps win to get training camp started, and we're seeing some familiar faces on the ice, guys that we haven't seen in a little bit, like Sonny Milano. I mean, he took the entire last season off due to injury, but he's trying to make a statement, but we're also not seeing guys on the ice like Mr. Alexander Ovechkin. He's too busy selling cereal at local Giants to be on the ice. But game one already happened. Training camp's in full swing. Caps looks like they're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about this team, it's not like last year quite how they made all of those moves over the summer. A couple trades, couple free agency signings, and we kind of went into the season more or less knowing what this roster was going to look like. There weren't a ton of questions. Whereas this year, there's still not a ton of questions, but there's a few. Like there's a big one being, what's wrong with Alex Ovechkin and why is he not playing? You know, he skated, what is today? Tuesday? He skated a little bit today before practice in a non-contact jersey before heading back to the locker room. It's a lower body injury, and that's about all we know. So aside from that rather interesting question, we don't really know who, maybe that third line left wing spot, the fourth line right wing spot. But based on kind of what we saw, and this is being what's projected by a couple of different beat reporters, where it's Tarek El-Bashir, or Billy Johnson, or Sammy Silver, we kind of have an inkling, if you will, in terms of what Spencer Carberry is and his team are looking at going into the first game of the season pretty soon, where we got Ovechkin, we got Strome, and it looks like at the moment, Anthony Beauvillier playing on that top line. And, we heard from Carberry, was it towards the end of last season or was it in the playoffs? He's a big fan of Beauvillier. He really likes what he brought to the team. He can see him fitting in on any line. And while I'm a little hesitant to be like, top line guy, he did pretty well there last year once he got going with the team. And so I don't, in my mind, he's kind of a fourth, third line guy, a big high energy guy, can produce offensively, probably more suited for there, but we'll see. I could be wrong, and I'd be more than happy to be wrong because that means that the Caps are winning and he's doing well.
He did seem to fit right in on that top line, and I know we talked about him coming in from the trade deadline from Pittsburgh about, is it just, beginner's luck almost with a new team? How does he already get to that top line playing with Ovi and Strome? But I thought it was something magical. Like they've been searching for that other winger to be with Ovechkin for his last year. And I saw him, there was some magic there with Beauvillier. So I'm glad that they brought him back. I'm glad it looks like they're going to have him on the top line. But the real big question right now is how much of a factor will Alex Ovechkin be? It's training camp. They could just be being like, extremely cautious with their star, with Alex Ovechkin. But this being his last year, him being in his 40s now, like I worked out.
Hey. So am I. Calm down.
Yeah. I turned 40 in July, and I blew out my back like 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't even stand up because I did one set of bent over rows. So, like, anything can happen in your 40s. But Ovi's last ride, all signs point to it being this year.
Nah.
They obviously...
No, he's not saying that. I think
of course he's
honestly,
not saying
dude,
it.
Ovechkin is a 40-year-old man with a 22-year-old's mind. Like, dude is ready to go out to the club. He wants to feel the vibes. He wants to see what's going on. I feel like if they have a good season, and if he likes what's going on in the locker room, if he's having a good time, he's going to sign a new deal. Like, I see him being like, yeah, I'm enjoying this. My body's doing all right. I'm enjoying it. We got a good team here. I got a chance to maybe win something. Like, I could go another year, but I could also see him just being like, nah, I'm good. Never mind.
I mean, as much as I want to see Ovi, this kind of stuff scares me. I mean, look at what happened with TJ Oshie and Nick Backstrom. Two guys that were mainstays on this team and two guys that were, a heart and soul type of player for this team. And then, Father Time never loses. We are starting training camp with Ovi on the shelf already. Yes, they could be being extremely cautious, but is he going to be one of those guys that, like Oshie was the last season he was able to play? Looks really good for 1 or 2 games, and then, has, like Oshie was saying, he couldn't even stand up and, like, hold his kids and stuff for a week or two, and then he'd feel better, and he played 2 gaings. I mean, he became a non-factor as much as we loved Osh on the ice, and we're going to see how he does in the booth, being a commentator this year. But that's what I'm worried about. If this is really Alex Ovechkin's last ride, if this really is his last season, how much of a factor is he going to be? Because again, Father Time just never loses.
Yeah, but Ovechkin's built different, right? Like,
he's a machine.
I could, I could see this being a situation where he is, he tweaked something, he rolled his ankle, he awkwardly, he tripped over a curb, like my son did earlier today. And then he's like, ugh, and they're like, you know what? Take your time. I think you know how to play this game. Well, we don't need to rush you back. It would have been cool. And it's a little disappointing if he doesn't play on Thursday in Hershey, which is really cool what the Caps are doing. And I hope this becomes a yearly tradition.
I mean, it's been 2 decades allegedly since the last time they did this in Hershey. It should be really cool. But I mean, what if they are keeping Ovi off the ice for these first couple training camp games because they're just saving him for the Hershey crowd?
I don't think they would do that.
Oh, I do. I definitely do.
I mean, unless he's really banged up, I think as cool as this is, they're like, in terms of going to Hershey, I don't think they're going to risk their star player for a preseason game, even if it is cool. Like, they could easily just have him come out on the ice and like do something in between, like at intermissions, where he comes out and like do a Q&A or something with him, where like you can still have him be part of, quote unquote, the show without him playing. But I don't think they risk him, given if this is his last season or how important he is to this team. Like we saw last year when he was out, they were still actually playing incredibly well. But
they were, when he broke his foot.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing really well. But when you look at it, like, I don't think they would risk it even for that. Like, you can very easily just have him get on the bus or fly him in a helicopter or something up there, and let him go on some of the rides at Hershey Park, and then later in the day,
it's Halloween. It's Dark Nights now. Like, dress him up like a zombie and let him go around the park scaring people.
That would actually be really funny. Like a video.
Could you imagine being a guest there and he comes up to you?
I feel like if I was there and I like see him go by and I'd be like, wait, what? And like turn around like there was one time. So when I went to the Caps practice after I took my kids to a game, we went to a Saturday morning practice. And I remember, I think we talked about this on the show before, but I was in the in the team store. This is why I think I told you the thing I may have done on here, just probably where my daughter, so they have these little like puck stuffed animals and it looks like a Kakamora from Moana. And my daughter just grabs one, literally runs like a third of the store over to my wife. She'd run off because she's 3 and she does that. But she like ran over to us. She goes, Kakamora. And it's like this dad next to us. Like, you knew he had a kid about the right age to watch Moana because he's bust up laughing. Something my stupid kid said. But then like I'm in the store and I do a look up and I look down and I went look back up and I was like, wait a minute, that's Sammy Silver. And like I almost went up to her and was like, yo, I just want to thank you for all the work you've done. But I'm I don't know, I don't like to bother people, so I didn't say anything. Someone else did. But like people that, first of all, last time I did Hershey Park's Halloween thing, I wasn't that impressed, I gotta be honest with you.
Oh,
we went a number of years. Was it her? No, wait, I'm sorry, it may not have been Halloween. It might have been. No, it was Halloween. It's been a while, but it was kind of garbage. And then we did the Christmas thing, also kind of garbage. And the lighting when it gets dark, great. Busch Gardens, Christmas Town, they know what they're doing. It's good stuff down there, down in Williamsburg. Anyways, let's get back on to Caps hockey. I don't think they're going to risk him, as important as he is to this team. But I think you can still incorporate him. But your idea about the having him go around like the park, great viral videos to put out there. Good stuff. The Flyers wouldn't be shocked if they did something with Gritty. That's a good idea too. Just throwing it out there. Okay. Just throwing it out there.
I mean, all these scare actors are in makeup and stuff. Like, it'd be really cool if it was kind of like, wait a minute, was that Alex Ovechkin or was that Tom Wilson? Like, these are hockey players. They're not like the most well-known people, but imagine just like walking around being like, huh, that's kind of cool. You know, it's a really tall zombie. And
you're like, huh?
For whatever reason, speaking Russian.
And he scores lots of goals. I don't understand. But with the lineup, like we're pretty confident it's going to be some, who's the left, right, but Protas, Dubois, and his roommate, Ryan Leonard, who I guess Dubois got mad at him for not doing the dishes one night. So that's, I'm sure, was awkward in the locker room the next day. And then the sort of projected is that it's Miroshnichenko, McMichael, and Wilson. And then Duhaime, Dowd, and then somewhere in there, either like Milano or LaPierre on the wing if he's not in the center spot, or Sordiff, who they brought in from Florida over the summer. Like there's a couple different options here, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but like the guys who have to pass through waivers, there's a couple on there that you don't want to lose for nothing. Right. Which means you have two options. You keep them on the roster or you trade them, which leads to my projection that if he doesn't beat out Milano, because I think it's going to come down. Well, I think it's going to there's two spots, right? For the four guys, Miroshnichenko, Milano, LaPierre, and Sordiff. I think Sordiff, worst case scenario, is the 13th forward. So I would not be shocked if Hendrix LaPierre is traded before the start of the season, or if Ovechkin's out a little bit into the season. If he gets traded for a guy who could play on the first line right wing, and then Beauvillier gets bumped down. That's my projection. Now, not because I want it to happen, but because that's the reality of their situation. Because when you look, I'm jumping around our notes here, but like notable guys have to pass through waivers. Milano, so you could lose him for nothing. And I think a team would take a flyer because he doesn't cost much. I think I actually looked it up on Cap, whatever it is now, Puckpedia. LaPierre, you don't want to lose him for nothing. That would be horrendous management. Sordiff, who I don't think they'll put on waivers because they just acquired him. I don't think Rubinski, Triniev, Ethan Frank, or McElrath will get claimed. Iorio, you don't want to lose for nothing. And Stevenson, I don't think will get claimed. Like, I think he's going to be Hershey's number one goalie, backed up either by was it Gibson or the guy who just played against Boston, whose name I'm Garrett Bjorklund. So that's what I'm checking. But like they have some interesting decisions, not only in terms of like who's going to play, but like what are they going to do with these other guys that they can't risk losing for nothing. And so the reality is I think we're going to see a trade, whether it's for draft picks or a player, but I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know who, but if they tried to go out and acquire a winger, maybe even more so if Ovechkin's injured, a goal scoring winger for that top six to play with eventually Ovechkin and Strome, because you almost have too many. You have too many guys that you don't want to lose for nothing, but not enough roster spots unless you carry 14 forwards, which they this team doesn't tend to do. They tend to carry 13 and have 8 defensemen.
It's an interesting spot to be in. And I mean, if you do have Miro on the left, is there a player that is a little versatile and can play the left or the right? Do they kind of get a leg up? You kind of have to think about that. But with all these players that have to go through waivers, you also have to think about, do you play them in any of these preseason games? Because you don't want to give, free game tape out to other teams to potentially claim them. So do you sit them? Do you not let them do that? Because it kind of hurts them either way. You don't play them, then they're going to be rusty. They're not going to look good. They're not going to have the ice time and the experience. You do play them. You leave yourself open for other teams to see them and being impressed and go, oh, we can add that player to our roster.
Oh, you play them so you can trade them if you need to, right? Like you build up value, because Milano has his trade value is negative something, right? Like it's in the negative simply because he's been out since last November. He's been out for almost a calendar year, and clearly he ain't got no rust because, and my understanding is that Boston actually, I double checked because I wasn't really paying attention to their roster, but they played 4 of their normal defensemen and Milano still played really well. He got 4 points, even though he hasn't played in almost a calendar year. LaPierre also did really well and had 3 points. Both these guys are playing with a ton of fire in terms of wanting to make this roster. And I hope that they continue to do that, because you have 2 things. One, you make it really easy for the Caps to go, well, we're definitely going to find a way to keep you. I mean, the other option is you put Miroshnichenko back in Hershey and you have Milano on, whether it's LaPierre and you move McMichael over to the left, LaPierre centers the third line if he's playing really well, and Milano's on the fourth line with Duhaime and Dowd or Sordiff, and like Milano's the 13th forward, something like that. There's a rotation going on if you feel like Miro's not the guy just yet. Or do you trade one of them or 2 of them, which might be, well, I guess it depends in terms of what you return. But if you trade 2 of them and you bring back a top line winger or a top 6 guy, then, Sordiff is your 13th forward, and you move Beauvillier down to the 4th line. You still have a pretty good lineup right there, right? So they have options, but there's going to be a bunch of work for this front office to do before rosters have to be set for opening night. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they do because of the number of dudes. And with like Dylan McIlrath got a new deal. I could very easily see him being put on waivers to go down to Hershey, and I don't think anyone's going to pick him up because you don't risk losing Iorio. You have, what's his name? Chisholm, who they acquired as your 7th or 8th defenseman. I think Iorio is probably your 7th defenseman, and he's jumping in. Unless you're going to trade him again for something of value, which is sometimes what good teams have to do. You acquire all these picks, you acquire this young talent to either plug into your lineup, or you move them out to bring in players that help you win now. And that's what good teams do. They're constantly able to move guys around to keep replenishing either the roster players, the guys kind of around your core, or to replace your core as other players are moving out of it, right? So the core at one point was Ovechkin, it was Carlson, it was Oshie, it was Backstrom. Well, 2 of those dudes are gone. One's still playing and one's commentating. So now you have your new core. You have Strome is in there. You have Dubois, I would say, Protus, Wilson, probably was in the old one too, but I didn't mention him. Ryan Leonard's kind of like making his way in likely to the core, but you are constantly having to replace the other dudes around them. And so they can do that. Like, this is not a bad problem. This is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem and something that needs a solution. And the only way that they can really mess this up, besides like making a trade and getting a bad return, is losing any of those guys that I mentioned: Milano, LaPierre, Sordiff, Iorio, for nothing. Like, just losing them for nothing would be garbage. You have to get something for them. And even if teams know that you have to move them on, you can still probably create value through what do I want to think of? Like a trade with different teams. Like, you're talking all these different teams, and you kind of you pit them against each other to up the value. The question is, what other team is looking at and going, who am I? Well, it's the beginning of the season. Am I really want to give up a top 6 player? A team that's rebuilding might be up for it if they have a guy in the mid to late 20s and they're not going to be good for a couple of years. They might want a guy like a LaPierre to come and be like, yo, this could be our second line, or maybe if he can continue to produce and progress, a first line center for us for a long time. How old is LaPierre? Like 22?
He's a young kid. Yeah. Well,
like
he was drafted in 2020 and he was 18, I think, in 2020.
He's 23. He turns 24 in early-ish February. So like, he's not 18, 19-year-old, but he could very easily, on a team that's rebuilding, slot right in. Like, if I don't know if you're like a Chicago or San Jose, like they've got some really good young players out there in San Jose. It actually might be a good thing for LaPierre because he doesn't have to come in and try and be like the guy. Do you go out and say, hey, we'll give up a little bit of this older dude because we're going to keep adding these young pieces to our core and be able to build out from there. And so I'm not advocating for trading LaPierre. I'd love for him to stay here. I could easily see a roster like lineup of, say, like I said, McMichael, LaPierre, and Wilson on the third line, or something along those lines, or maybe Leonard's on that line. I would like.
I know LaPierre and Protas and Hershey got along really, really well on the ice, and the two of them worked really, really well together.
Off the ice, hate each other. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Did terrible.
The little guy LaPierre and the real tall guy Protas were a good duo in Hershey.
Is LaPierre even that short? Watch him be like, he's like 6'2", and it's like, just because Protas is 9 feet tall, that you're like, oh, he's 6 feet tall. Like, in any other situation, he's tall. But then Protas is there, and you're like, man, I'm the short one. So
and Baby Pro is the same height now.
Apparently he grew an inch over the summer. So
that's
like
nuts.
I mean, that is pretty crazy. He's one that kind of paid. I got to add him to my Sofa Score. I don't know if you ever use that app for. It's a fantastic, my favorite sports app. Anyway, so yeah, the lineup is definitely not set, but I feel like it's pretty close. But there's still a couple things that could happen. I wouldn't be shocked if they make a trade before the season starts, but I also wouldn't be not shocked if they didn't. And I think a lot of that might also depend on Ovechkin and how he's doing. And there's one other dude to pay attention to in Andrew Cristall, and to see, could he make a really tough decision for the Capitals in terms of showing up and be like, guys, I can play too. I can score goals. So there's a lot of things that are going on. Now, injuries, you talked about Ovechkin, Favari. He said he's like 80, 90%. He actually, for the first time today, practiced without the no contact or non-contact jersey. So
it's a good step forward.
And then Sortif, the new guy, the team is very high on. Apparently, they tried to bring him in like a year ago, and Florida was like, no, we're not doing that. So they were able to bring him in. They're really high on him, which is why I think he definitely is safe and going to make this team, barring just like a horrendous training camp. They
spent a bunch of money on him, and all the fans were like, wait, who is this guy?
Yeah, we sent like a second round pick or something to get him, and everyone was like, what? But who? I think they're really high on him, and he, I guess, picked up something over the summer or the beginning of training camp. So he was in a non-contact jersey for a little bit. He practiced just like everybody else today. So hopefully he's making his way back. But it'll be interesting to see. Like we talked about, the next game is in Hershey. I'm curious to see who plays in that game and who does well. And then, when is the first game? October. I always forget this. October.
Like regular season.
Also, how is it October like next week? Opening night is on the 8th. They have actually some interesting promotions this year.
They got some weird stuff.
That tends to always be the case, but they do have some fun ones. So yeah, anybody, I'm not going to go through and read them all out. Upside down hats, still don't understand that, but I'm just kind of scrolling through now. Some of they've released pictures of. The travel bag sounds cool. I'll bet you it falls apart after like 2 uses, but it does sound pretty interesting. And then there's an oven mitt that's kind of fun.
It's got to be for the Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, November 26th versus Winnipeg. Kickoff Turkey Day early. What time is that game? Edinburgh. So anyways, they have some fun ones. There's one where I'm actually going to the Star Wars night one. We got tickets because my kids are still really into Star Wars. The Ovechkin floss one, that's a little weird.
You're not a Star Wars guy, so
I'm not a Star Wars guy. I'm a father. I do things for my children. No, my wife.
Yeah, but I'm surprised likes Star Wars. The kids are even into it.
My wife likes Star Wars. Okay. My brother-in-law is a massive Star Wars fan. I want that Dylan Strom bobblehead. So what do we? Oh, Star Wars. Yes, you get an Obi-Wan Kenobi bobblehead. Ugh.
Who did I get from the Orioles? I got Colton Cowser. He's up on the top shelf.
Oh, you have to buy the special ticket package to get the.
Yeah, I hate those. Those are so stupid.
But I bought it. Oh, I'm gonna have to tell my kids because we bought it through StubHub.
Yeah, you don't get the bobblehead that way.
That's
big other stuff. Other stuff coming out though is that the Capitals have announced a new third jersey, and it's the reverse retro, but it once again is changed up a little bit. So they've done a red, white, and blue reverse retro. They went with the far superior black, gold, and blue reverse retro, and now they're going back to red, white, and blue, but a different design.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about these jerseys. I think this is one where I need to see them playing in them, to really get a look at what, like I've seen people where I've seen them wearing them. I'm trying to find it on the website right now, and I am struggling to find the announcement. But I don't know how I feel about this. Like, they're not bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not looking at them and going, these kind of suck. But like what was it, the outdoor game against Carolina? Those were terrible.
With the giant Weagles, yeah.
That was terrible. That was a massive. Why okay? It's not even on the freaking website anymore. That was a massive swing and a miss. But these new ones, I mean, they're not bad. I just feel like it almost feels like they weren't finished. And they it's like when you're taking a test and you ran out of time, and then you're like, okay, here you go, I'll turn it in. Right? Like it felt like they just kind of rushed at the end.
Yeah, remember back in the day we had Scantrons. You remember Scantrons?
Yes.
Oh, you were running out of time, so you just did AC/DC for the rest of the questions, hoping that you would get them right down the end line. But yeah, these I think they're nice. They're good. I think that the black are still far superior, and I wish they would have gone with those. But yeah, I don't know about like the blue stripe at the shoulders. I think that's a little funky. I don't know. I like the Screaming Eagle. I do think that's a great logo for the team. I'm so sick of the Capitals script. I'm done with that. I guess they're going to overhaul it once Ovi leaves. But yeah, this is a nice little third jersey, but I would have gone with the black, blue, and gold. That's still my favorite.
I mean, I love the script. It's the one they started with. This is more of like a modernized one. Yeah. I mean, I don't think, aside from the W, which I just felt was lazy. I love
the W.
I don't get that. I think I have a polo with the W, but it was also because it was really cheap on Fanatics or eBay. I forget which. And it's a very, it's a comfortable polo. I've always liked the script. I think it's very clean. It's classy. I like the old one better than the new one. Not really the point. The Screaming Eagle, like, is hit or miss for me. I like it. I think it's a good one. I also think, and my wife brought this up, and it was what I was trying to get to, but I couldn't quite, get the thought out. It's not symmetrical, and I wonder if that's what's bugging me with these new thirds. In terms of like, there's extra, if you're looking at it, there's extra space on the right because the Eagles, diagonal. And I think that's what's making it look weird. And so I don't know. I need to see them playing in these before I can make a judgment one way or another. I think it was Greg Wyshynski who was saying, like, wouldn't be shocked if these ended up being, I think you sent this to me or I sent it to you, but like, you wouldn't be shocked if the Caps ended up making that their their primary home jersey at some point in the future. And like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I hope they make a couple tweaks and additions to it just to kind of round it out a bit, but like, they're not bad. I don't know. I wasn't like, oh, these are great. Or I also wasn't like, oh no. Oh no, thank you. Like when I saw the red reverse retro, I want that jersey so bad. It's the only Caps jersey I don't have that I want.
Right.
When I saw the blacks, the reverse retro, I was like, ooh, I like that one a lot. Not as much as the red, white, and blue one, but I do like that. And I have one of those. And I don't know if I want this one. It just doesn't feel finished, is the best way I can describe it. I feel like it's a little bit of a miss. Not bad, right, but it just needs a bit more, Like if they went with the reverse retro as the home, the red, white, and blue one, and then a white version of that, which basically would be the home jersey. Because remember, it used to be you wore white at home, the home jersey from the like late 90s to early 2000s. And then the black one as the third jersey, like, ooh, that'd be great. They're also, a lot of this is interesting because the Caps were voted as having the worst jersey, or was it home jersey as voted by, I don't remember who, players or reporters. Like, I don't care about these votes. I just thought it was rather entertaining. And like the next day or within a couple of days, they're like, look at these new third jerseys. And you're like, are these two things connected?
Right.
So I thought that was a little weird, but I like it. I like that clearly they're going to stick with the red, white, and blue theme. And I do wonder if they're going back to the Screaming Eagle as their thing, but I have so much stuff that has, the modernized script and the Weagle that now I'd be like, well, what am I supposed to do with all this now?
Right.
I mean, so obviously you can still wear it. The only one you can't wear, you're not allowed, is that crappy one from the outdoor game against Carolina. One, because they got crushed in that game. It looked terrible, but also because that jersey sucked.
That was a bad jersey. Is it on? I have a puck. No, it just says Stadium Series. Thought that logo might be on there. It's not. Never mind.
I actively avoid anything to do with that game because that's the only one that they've lost outdoors.
Yeah. They had some great varsity jackets. You remember the varsity jackets? They were nice.
I think the one that Boudreau wore and the other coaches wore in Pittsburgh still might be my favorite.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a nice one.
So what else should we talk about here at on What the Puck?
Oh, what else we got going on? I mean, Lyndon Lakovic, he was their pick from the most recent draft. He looked really good, or has been looking really good in preseason. So I'm curious to see how he's going to keep doing. I don't think he's going to make the roster by any means, but I do think he's playing quite well. Caps did make their first cuts. None of them surprising. A bunch of kids went back. A bunch of players went back to Hershey. A couple of their recent draft picks went back to their junior teams, that being Miroslav Shatan Jr. and Maxim Schaefer. They went to their junior teams, that being the OHL's Saginaw for Shatan, and Schaefer going to the Quebec Major Juniors Chicoutimi. I think I was somewhere close to that one. We can talk about the Mitch Love stuff. I mean, we would be remiss not to at least bring that up, considering how that affects this organization. They are down a coach, but Mitch Love has been put on team-imposed leave. Essentially, he's been suspended from the team pending an NHL investigation. So it sounds like as he was kind of going around interviewing with a number of different teams, including the Penguins, over the summer, as well, Anaheim, maybe a couple others, for their head coaching positions, the NHL got a letter or some sort of information from someone alleging, or with some, I have to imagine some serious allegations against him. The NHL didn't let the Caps know. This must have been over the summer. The Caps didn't let the Caps know until relatively recently about this, and that's when the Caps put him on leave to essentially, allow the NHL to conduct their investigation. It takes a bit of a distraction away from the team. They haven't brought in any other coaches to fill in his role. Sounds like they're just letting the NHL do their thing before they make a decision in terms of what they're going to do. It was Greg Wyshynski who stated that the situation that Mitch Love was involved in was prior to his time at the Capitals. So he's only been with the Caps since the 23-24 season when he joined them as an assistant coach. And so, we don't know what's going on. I'm certainly not going to speculate, but, the NHL should be able to do their investigation, and it's serious enough that they put him on leave until they could determine what's next. So, a little bit of a thing going on with the team, but right now it sounds like if the NHL is involved with it, he's, I guess, sitting at home and doing whatever he's doing. And a decision will be made at some point in the future. And, I imagine if he ends up being terminated, then the Caps will figure out what to do next in terms of having someone fill his role.
Yeah, and we don't know what anything really that's going on with him as well. We don't know what kind of allegations. We don't know what they're investigating. The NHL and the Capitals are being very tight-lipped about exactly what's happening. But for the Capitals not to try to replace this coach, I have to assume that they're hoping at least that the investigation will be kind of swift and over sooner rather than later. But I guess only time will tell. But until then, the Caps are like you said, down a coach, and we'll just have to kind of wait it out.
I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. Another bit of interesting lack of news, if you will, is that there have apparently been, and this may not be true, but there have apparently been no conversations between the Capitals and star defenseman John Carlson in terms of a new deal. And so you would expect, he's let me find Puck. I'm sorry. Where's Puckpedia? Nope, that's the wrong link. I don't know where it is. Here we are. I think his contract is up at the end of the season. He's wrapping up a deal that was the cap hit of $8 million. He is scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but I wouldn't be shocked if they said, thanks for everything. We'll see you. And that was it. He'll be 36. He's 35 now, so he'll be 36 on January 10th. So whose birthday was on before? He's like the next day. Or was that February? Never mind. His birthday. Sorry, that was February. Oh, so close. So, Lapierre. Okay. So anyways, that doesn't line up. But Carlson's, he turns 36 in January. He's not getting younger. He's not quite, he's still a very good player, but he's not necessarily the player he used to be. And I kind of wonder if the rest of the defensemen are looking good, do the Caps look at it and go, John, thank you for everything. We are going to take that money that we were, for lack of a better term, spending on you, and we're going to put that somewhere else. And, we got Chukrin, who's due $9 million for a bunch more years. He's only 27. Matt Roy's 30, but he's still got 4 more years on his deal after this season. Sandin's 25. He's got 3 more years on his deal. Favare's new deal kicks in next year at $6 million for 4 years. You've got, if Iorio actually steps up and can do a bit more, I wonder, could it be, which means, we're saying this, they're going to end up signing him to a new deal tomorrow, but could it be a situation where they let Carlson walk?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He's been with the organization for so long. Maybe if they did like a 1 or 2 year deal just to kind of extend him a little bit longer. He's relatively healthy. I know didn't he like break his jaw or something a year or 2 ago and he missed a lot of time, but it wasn't something
that was like a freak injury.
That was a freak injury, as I was about to say. Yeah, it wasn't something that, was a long-term deal like Sonny Milano's going through. So he's relatively healthy. He's still playing at a very good pace. But like you said, he is getting older, so I don't know. If they could get him for a little bit less money and a 1 or 2 year deal to kind of finish out his career, that might be better. But if he thinks he can play like Ovi can through his 40s, he might want to go somewhere else. He might want to look someplace else. I know, again, he is older, so it doesn't look like he'll be playing for Team USA in the Olympics coming up in 2026, even though he was such a big deal in Sochi as well. Unfortunately, doesn't look like he'll be there this time around, but a lot of younger players are coming into the league. But again, this is what happens. Father Time always wins. And we could see John Carlson leave. I would hate to see that. He's such a talented player, another one of those heart and soul type of players for the Capitals. But, when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Well, he's a massive part of the history now of the Washington Capitals. And he should be treated as such.
Won the world. He won the World Juniors, right? Wasn't he in overtime? He won the.
Yeah, I mean, he at the end of his career, he would have had a fascinating, fantastic career, and he deserves to finish his career on the Capitals. And I would love for them to be like, if he's like, hey, I want to play 2-3 more years and be a part of this organization, then I'd love to have him. But it's got to be at the right price. This is not, at the moment, a rebuilding team. I don't think you sign Chuker into that kind of deal or Matt Roy to that kind of deal if you're a rebuilding team. I think they have some talent coming up. I think they have some talent on this roster. And, if Ovechkin does end up retiring, and that's $9.5 million that you can potentially put somewhere else into 1 or even 2 people, that you have an opportunity to really do something, post Ovechkin. But Carlson, I don't know. Maybe they re-sign him and it's still big money, or he takes a bit less. The cap ceiling is going up, but you're still going to have some tough decisions to make with him. He's not the only defenseman. You're going to have to re-sign, if you want to, Trevor Van Riemsdyk. He's going to need a new deal. And I'm going to go down through the younger guys now. But you may have to... Actually, no, you're pretty much good with everybody else. Oh, Iorio needs a new deal after the season, assuming he's still on the roster and not, part of a trade package or something. So there's lots of decisions that this team is going to have to make. A couple of guys that they're going to have to decide if they want to re-sign. Connor McMichael, he's going to need a new deal after this season. He'll be a restricted free agent, though he is eligible for arbitration. And LaPierre needs a new deal. So yeah, a lot. Milano needs a deal. Duhaime. So lots of interesting decisions for the front office to make.
It's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be an interesting offseason after they win the Stanley Cup this upcoming season. So, we got lots of hockey until then, lots of stuff to talk about before that. So, is that the show, Coach?
Well, we do have two bits of NHL news to talk about. One, Los Angeles great Anze Kopitar announced that he will be retiring at the end of the season. He's going into his 20th season in the NHL, all of them with the Los Angeles Kings. And he won 2 cups with them. And then sort of ending on a somber note, but it was announced recently that Flyers former goaltender great Bernie Parent passed away. So he made his NHL debut with Boston actually back in 1965. And then he was picked up by Philly in the expansion draft in 1967. He ended up actually getting traded to Toronto before making his way back to the Flyers for the 73-74 season. He then claimed their number 1 spot and won 2 Stanley Cups in 74 and 75. Now he actually got struck with, I think it was a high stick that I read back in 1979. He was temporarily blinded, which actually ended up ending his career. He never played again. He retired with 271 wins, 231 of them with the Philadelphia Flyers. He passed away at the age of 80.
Nice long life he had there.
Yes, he did. So, we got a couple of Caps games coming up. Curious to see which guys are playing and what the lineups look like. And hopefully it's going to be a good season, man.
That's the hope. Preseason is well on their way, and I'm so excited to see how this game turns out in Hershey. I can't wait to see the TV production and what they're going to do. But yeah, it's always fun when they do these kind of like crazy preseason games and bring the team to a town that doesn't get to see them very often.
The Hershey thing is cool though. Like they could make this, whether it's the Flyers or the Penguins or someone that's not too far away. I mean, I know preseason when you travel a little differently when you go to a smaller town, but I mean, Hershey has a storied and very well-run hockey past. And so having it, and the Flyers makes a lot of sense because they're the closest NHL team. That's not the Capitals. I think technically, geographically, they actually might be closer. But it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like this should be something they should do either every year or every other year. Have a preseason game up in Hershey. Like I feel like it's fun.
Yeah,
let's have some fun, guys.
So I think Coach Dan, is that the show?
I think that's it, buddy.
All right, everybody. Well, if you would like to continue the conversation with Coach Dan or you can. It's real easy. I am on X and Blue Sky at Brando Cash. You can talk to me about the Caps and whatever else is going on in the world. Coach Dan, where can people follow you at?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Coach Dan talking Capitals related stuff. Also on there talking about Arsenal Football Club, talking about the Bills, the Commanders, and the wide world of sports. That's finding me on Blue Sky at Coach Dan. But hey, if you've enjoyed the show, go ahead and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/whatthepuckpod. It's where we'll post when new shows are coming out, as well as all sorts of things related to the Washington Capitals, the Hershey Bears, South Carolina Stingrays, maybe even the Hershey Cubs from time to time, and the National Hockey League. That's facebook.com/whatthepuckpod. But Brandon, the NFL season is fully underway. We got some teams doing well, some not so much, and some are the Miami Dolphins. But, if someone happens to be a fan of a certain purple-clad team based out of Baltimore, is there a podcast they should check out?
That's right. You can listen to my Baltimore Ravens podcast called The Call. Me and my buddy Josh talk all things Baltimore Ravens. We try to bring you as much daily content as we can with our wake-up call so you can start your morning with some Ravens news. We don't really do it daily. We try, but sometimes it's really hard to do that. But I got to put one out earlier on Tuesday because I got to be at that Monday night game. And the pregame was really cool. Good Charlotte was there for halftime. That was really cool. But then the actual game happened, and that was awful. And the Bills were week 1. We're not going to talk about that. We'll see you in January.
Probably.
We'll see what happens. But it's going to be interesting coming up because we've got Ravens versus Chiefs, and one of those teams will be 1-3 at the end of the game on Sunday.
Let it be the Chiefs.
Let it be the Chiefs. That's right. So make sure you check out my Baltimore Ravens podcast called The Call. Now, check us out. We're over on Spotify and we're on Apple Podcasts. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. Rate us over on Spotify. Let everybody know. Say, I'm a Washington Capitals fan. I listen to What the Puck, and you should too. So let's go over the games until we talk again. On Thursday, September 25th, the Capitals travel to Hershey to take on the Philadelphia Flyers. That game's at 7 o'clock. You can watch that one on the Monumental Sports Network or NBC Sports Plus. I guess that's the Philly channel. And then on Sunday, the 28th, it is the Devils. The Caps are up against the Devils. That game is at 3 o'clock. You can watch that one on the NHL Network or Monumental Sports. And then on Tuesday, September 30th, the Capitals are up against the Columbus Blue Jackets. That game's at 7 o'clock. You can watch that one on the Monumental Sports Network. And then Coach Dan and I will be back to talk about the preseason training camp and all the stuff as the Caps prepare to finally hit that NHL regular season. So that is pretty much it for the show this week. Everybody, say it loud, say it proud. Let's go, Caps!
This has been a production of Brando Cash Entertainment. Music by DJ Wolfman, voiceover by Sarah Jacks. For more information, go to brandocash.com.